Well, g'day footy nerds. We have got a big couple of weeks coming up in the 2026 draft landscape. We have got the annual AFL Academy series games. These games are super fun. It's pretty much, to sum it up as quickly as I can, the 20 to 30 best young prospects in each draft representing the AFL Academy, playing on a team alongside each other as teammates against seasoned veterans in the VFL. These games are super fun because you've got the pick one contenders, your club-tied NGA or father-son talents. Pretty much all the names to be aware of this time of the year in the draft will be lining up as teammates, playing 2 games against VFL opposition. You've got recruiters eagerly watching, young kids trying to impress and enhance their draft profile. These are games that if you're a draft nerd, you just have to watch. The AFL Academy is a great initiative that's been going on for a little while now. It pretty much is just a way to help young footballers hoping to be drafted become better young footballers hoping to be drafted. And if you are a member of the AFL Academy, it's usually a great indication that you'll end up on an AFL list. In fact, last year, of the 28 players listed in the initial AFL Academy squad, only 5 are currently not listed on an AFL team. It really is a great indication that you're in draft range if you are in the AFL Academy. These games aren't the be-all and end-all for a draft profile. It's not make or break. If you underperform, you're not bust. But they can be a huge way to boost your draft profile, as we saw last year with Josh Lindsay, who was drafted in round 1 to the West Coast Eagles. But even if you don't perform in these games, just being involved in the academy has its benefits. You get exposed to AFL level standards, being allowed to train with clubs in the pre-season. You get development sessions with the best development minds in footy. You get to hear from stars of the game. You get a group, overseas trip to New Zealand, which is also nice. Touring infrastructures there as well. Draftees often highlight just how important the AFL Academy is to their development and the role it plays in building their draft profile. This squad is stacked with talent for this year's draft. So in the next 2 weeks, the best young players in the country are going to go out and play 2 games alongside each other as teammates against VFL opposition. So really, we're just going to talk about the players involved and those games today. So it all kicks off this Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Victorian time. The AFL Academy will line up against North Melbourne's VFL team at Arden Street. Remember, there is a bye in the VFL this week, so no teams will be playing. It means North Melbourne are available and they have raised their hand to join in and help out the AFL Academy. This not only means they get experience against VFL players and mature bodies, but also quite a few AFL listed players as well. They get to line up against potentially guys like Zach Fisher, Charlie Spargo, Robert Hanson Jr. They're just a few of the mature listed North Melbourne players who have been recently playing in the VFL. Obviously, things can change if they're added to the gather-round teams. There are also plenty of young talents in that team, emerging talents like Taylor Goad, Matt Whitlock, Riley Hardiman, who many think is unlucky not to be playing AFL at the moment. You're going to see direct matchups there, which can often really help a player's draftability. Archie Ludovic was a really good example last year, playing on Noah Bolter when he was playing for the Richmond VFL team. And speaking of Richmond, by the way, they are the second opponent. Richmond are always involved in these AFL Academy games, it seems. The following Saturday, April the 18th, the AFL Academy team will take on Richmond's VFL side at Icon Park, Carlton's training ground. Richmond, as I said, often opponents in these games, and a really good one to play, not just because you've got AFL listed players involved, but they're also a breeding ground for mid-season draftees and SSP recruits. It's a really strong VFL setup, so being involved in these AFL Academy games must be great exposure for these young players involved. Obviously, I should say, it kind of goes without saying, but results don't mean much or anything in these games. These games are purely a way for us footy nerds and recruiters to look at individuals in a draft and see how they go kind of together as teammates, but also against senior bodies in grades above them in footy. So big games for us to tune into. They are usually streamed live on the AFL app. Now, unfortunately, while we will see some of the best young talents involved in these games, there are also going to be quite a few players missing from these matches through injury or unavailability, more so than any other year, to be honest, that I can remember. So, and some of these names, by the way, are really big. So, Dougie Cochran, the potential pick 1 candidate, the Port Adelaide NGA player, will not be playing in this game. He's got knee tendonitis that he's recently had surgery on. There's a possibility that he misses champs as well, which would just be devastating after he missed champs last year with injury as well. Aidan McCartney, another club-linked player, linked to Sydney through NGA and North Melbourne through father-son rules, has had hip surgery, is possibly out for the entire year, like Jack Pickett, the key forward, who has recently done his ACL and MCL at training and will miss the entire season. Really unfortunate news there. You've got Darcy Serzven, the shoulder injury there for the key defender, yet to play a game this year. Harry Van Hattem has missed the last 2 matches with a quad issue. Unsure if he'll get up for these games. Often players will be rested to get up for the important games, whether it be AFL Academy or Champs. So not confirmed that he'll be missing one or both of these games, Harry Van Hattem, but missed the last 2 through injury. Heath Melody is another out of WA who has missed the opening game through injury or hamstring awareness in the case of Heath Melody. So we'll see what happens there. The last few there, it's kind of hard to know where they're at, and there might be some others kind of in the frame as well. Because of these injuries, though, we've got 4 confirmed players out of this game and a couple more in doubt or at risk. Because of this, we will have additions to the AFL squad. Those are yet to be announced, but you will have more players as late additions to the squad to play in these VFL games to round out the bench. If you look at some of the performances in Talent League footy and some of the players considered unlucky to miss out on the squad altogether, you can kind of put the pieces together, but it is really hard to predict. You'd assume that someone like a Marlon Neocleus, the small forward, who was considered unlucky to miss out on the squad to begin with and had a big game on the weekend, could be an option to be a late addition, especially because there aren't too many small forwards in this squad to begin with. Ethan Draver, Harry Franz from Glenelg, and Harvey Cook from the Northern Knights are also other possibilities, but again, it's really hard to predict these things. It very much depends on player availability and fitness as well. But the unfortunate news is that we won't be seeing Dougie Cochran, Aidan McCartney, Jack Pickett, Darcy Serzven, and you've also got Harry Van Hattem and Heath Melody possibly at risk of missing as well. Alrighty, so obviously there are some big names involved in these games. There are some players to watch out for, particularly in the pick one conversation. So who are the guys that we should be keeping an eye on in these matches? Clearly, if we're looking at the pick one conversation, we've got to start by talking about Archie Butler. Archie Butler is a dynamic midfielder forward. You might have seen his round 1 performance, 26 disposals and 4 goals. You'll see some highlights on the screen right now. He is a smaller than usual top line prospect, and maybe that holds him back a bit in terms of scope and positional or potential draftability early days, but he clearly has the speed and strength attacking the footy that can transfer from midfield stoppage craft and winning a clearance into the forward line where he can hit the footy at speed and really do damage on the scoreboard. Obviously, there is a lot of time left in this draft campaign for these guys. Calling anyone a pick one contender now is kind of pointless, but a big performance here in one of these games, especially after a quiet couple of weeks, could really do someone like Archie Butler the world of good in rounding out his draft profile, seeing how he goes against bigger bodies and seeing if that competitiveness can transfer onto, higher level grades. A performance here could do the world of good if recruiters are watching Archie Butler, which I can guarantee you they will be. Another kind of cut from the same cloth as Archie Butler in a few ways is Coda Edwards from South Adelaide in South Australia. He's another prolific ball-winning, damaging midfielder. That hybrid player that Archie Butler kind of is. Got 7 goals and over 25 touches a game from his first 2 matches this year in the AAMI Talent League. So he's really performing in a big way and helping that South Adelaide team remain competitive. He's got less power and punch about him and his footy style than Archie Butler, but he's got serious craft, whether that is, in a stoppage, winning clearances, which he can at high volume, or in the forward line where he is regularly hitting the scoreboard. He's also got a pretty tough streak to him as well, which helps him remain competitive, and that's going to be something we watch closely in these games, seeing if that tough streak can transfer against bigger bodies, as in the same case as Archie Butler as well. Expect him to be one of the big talking points out of South Australia this year, Coda Edwards. Expect him and Butler to both be playing in, or both the midfield and the forward line in stages in these 2 games. And if you're moving up the ground and looking at midfield options in a year where it does feel like there are less midfielders or pure midfielders around, one of the guys to look at is Noah Williams. This guy was, of course, one of the stars in the under-17s future game on Grand Final Day last year. Again, you're probably looking at size as being that talking point. He's sub 180 centimeters, but that is why an academy game can be really, really helpful. We can see how he goes against bigger bodies. He can be exposed in that midfield. This guy's a really classy player, great quick movement with his body, finds space super well, and does have damage by foot to match. Really strong runner who can be seen outside the contest, kind of roaming up and down in space. I really wouldn't be surprised to see him feature heavily in the guts in these games and thrown in the deep end a bit as a smaller player against bigger bodies. And I feel like a big performance here could really help his draftability and increase his value as a player, because right now I'd say that many would have him around the top 10 range without being a solid pick one contender, and maybe size is a big reason for that. But you look at him as a footballer, as a pure footballer, he does have weapons to go higher if he can put them all together. So this will just be about seeing if he can put them all together against VFL opposition. I want to throw Will Milady in this conversation as well. Maybe a bit of a rogue name to have, you know, kind of talked about as ones to watch, but I feel like every year there is a big key forward that might not have the best game, but really stands up and owns these big games, or owns the forward line that he's involved in. I'm backing Will Milady to be that guy in this particular game. He's a smaller key forward, only just over 190 centimeters, but he's really capable of taking ownership of a forward line that he features in. Kicked 6 goals in his first game of the year for Gippy. He's a great aerial threat despite that smaller frame. He's really strong in the air above his head, capable of doing some pretty specky things as well. So if you're looking at a highlights key forward, someone who can really, you know, take a moment by the horns, and not just a game but a moment, Will Milady is probably a guy there. And key forwards can often be, you know, underexposed a bit when they come to this VFL level, especially so early in the year. But if you've got one who's really capable of doing, you know, having those moments, doing some specky things, Will Milady is that guy. And of course, the one to really keep an eye on in these games, or not even, you know, keep an eye on, but be forced to keep an eye on, is Cody Walker. I say forced to keep an eye on, or forced to watch him, because this guy really does just demand attention. Like, there are some draft prospects who just look the goods, even if they're not dominating, and Cody Walker looks like an AFL footballer already. His frame, that lankier, leaner frame, his work rate, he's very, you know, he's confidence as well. He's always calling for the footy. He is a genuine pick one contender right now, and the fact that we get to see him go up against AFL listed midfielders in the coming games is perfect for Carlton and perfect for footy fans alike. He is definitely one that you could see getting the most out of these games. He's one of the main draft prospects in this 2026 year. He's one of the most talked about draft prospects in this 2026 year, and of course, because of that reason, he is listed in the AFL Academy. With Dougie Cochran missing through injury, Cody Walker is really the big name in headlights, headlining these AFL Academy games. And speaking of Cody Walker, let's look at some club-tied prospects that are involved in these Academy games. So obviously, Cody Walker's the main one. We just talked about him. He is a father-son option for Carlton, the son of Andrew Walker, but he's not the only player listed in this Academy linked to one of the big Victorian clubs, because Richmond fans will be eagerly watching this game to see Nuggety midfielder Tanner Armstrong. He is an aggressive ground level operator. He's really impressed to start the season for the Murray Bush Rangers, being the leading disposal getter in every game he has played so far this year. Now, I will say he is another who missed his most recent Talent League game, but even if he gets the chance to play one of these matches, you're looking at a high profile player solely because of his club links. I do think, again, his size, being a sub 180 centimeter midfielder, is a talking point, and whether or not that can translate to AFL footy is a big question, but this is a great little test for him if he does manage to get up for these games, especially because you look at that Richmond list and that hole that'll soon be there when Dion Prestia retires. They're not like-for-like players, Armstrong and Prestia, but are from the same mould as that nuggety inside operator with that centre of gravity that makes them just an absolute pain to tackle on ground level. You're looking at other big clubs. Garrison Ken from West Coast. It is a big club, although on the other side of the country. The Academy member will likely continue his role on halfback. He is a super athletic, rebounding defender, very quick. Not quite the finished product yet, and we saw that in a recent Waffle game, but you've got the foundation there from his athleticism and speed alone. You move up to the northern states. It's a fruitful Academy hub of sorts, usually. This year, not as much, not as monumental as we saw last year, especially for the Gold Coast Suns, who had 1 million players in last year's Academy. This year, it's just the one, Archie Hill. I've talked about him on the channel. He is a reliable rebounding defender. He's likely going to be partnered alongside Garrison Ken, rebounding the footy and distributing out of D50. A really rounded player, able to break lines and provide leadership as well, which is good. Caelan Murray is another who could be playing out of halfback. There's a few of these guys. Maybe more of a midfielder for the future. He's linked to the Brisbane Lions through their Next Generation Academy. Ethan Matthews is linked to GWS. Another probably back half player. Very skinny and classy ball user, this guy. He's a fascinating one for me, especially in a game like this, seeing how he goes against senior bodies with a really lean frame. He's got a lot of filling out to do. In terms of usage, he's already one of the most prominent in the draft, and you know, which is really important in these drafts when ball use is kind of slacking or lacking a bit in the AFL. Of course, you've also got Dougie Cochran and Aidan McCartney, who I spoke about earlier. Cochran linked to Port Adelaide, McCartney linked to Sydney and North Melbourne. Both of these guys will miss missed this game through injury. So plenty to look at there in the father-son and academy world. The good thing is it's not as much as last year. This draft doesn't feel quite as compromised in the early days, but still a few players around that clubs can benefit from having on their list. Alrighty, let's have a look at some key matchups and some little matchups that matter in these games. Of course, you're looking at AFL listed players going up against 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds. That can often be really interesting in looking at some of these, A- grade players in the draft landscape. And what I want to talk about is Jack Gordon, the big-bodied SA midfielder, the Central District's captain, the potential captain for the SA squad later in the year at Champs. I think these games are great litmus tests for those big-bodied inside mids that really build their game around the contest, and that is their foundation as a player. It can be really easy for someone like Jack Gordon to kind of bully smaller bodies at 18's level, and some will say he does that. Some said the same about Dyson Sharp, but Dyson Sharp proved last year that that's not always the case. He really played well in these games against VFL opposition. It really helped with his draft ability. Gordon is kind of a clone of Dyson Sharp in a way. Big-bodied midfielder, inside midfielder for Central Districts, SA, number 29 as well. There's a bit about him in that contested footy as well. So I'm really keen to see how this guy goes against someone like a Thompson Dow for North Melbourne, who's been getting big clearance numbers. Even a Lachlan Street against Richmond in the next game, seeing how he matches up with those inside contested clearance winning midfielders. In the ruck, you've got big Ethan Herbert from SA and big Benji Van Rooyen from WA. Both had really strong starts to their under-18s season, but this is not under-18s. They're going up against VFL and AFL listed rucks. Oliver Hayes-Brown for Richmond may be playing in gather round with all the injuries that team has, so it's hard to know whether he'll get an AFL call-up and feature against Big Benji and Ethan Herbert. But Taylor Goad for North Melbourne should be involved in these games, giving the big men of 2026 a chance to kind of understand what it takes to be an AFL ruckman going up against genuine AFL ruckman as it already is. And down back, I want to talk about these two guys who probably won't get as much attention, but Tate Hodgson and Xavier Ladbroke. Hodgson is the Northern Knights captain, a reliable interceptor who missed all of last year with injury. Ladbroke is a 2-meter utility, more of that athlete type of footballer. He can play in different positions, played up forward in the ruck as well, but he's likely going to be that rangy intercepting operator in this game. These are just two of the high-profile key backs in the 2026 draft class, so seeing how they go on someone like a James Tarrant for North Melbourne at fresh off a 4th goal game. Richmond's ball movement will likely keep them both busy at all. Really interesting games to be a key defender for. Going through all zones there, you've got players on all different zones capable of, being involved in key matchups. Seeing how the WA boys go as well. Heath Melody, if he plays. Kobe Lacroix, who had a bit of a quieter game for West Perth on the weekend. There's so many players I could be talking about in these videos. So little time, but I do promise you, when I do talk about the AFL Academy games, I will talk and review and recap every single player involved, because that is really when you want to be talking about these games, after they occur and seeing what the performances are like. So yeah, that's just a quick little AFL Academy update or preview of sorts. These games take place, as I said, on Sunday this week and Saturday next week against North Melbourne and Richmond. Big games that you will be able to watch live online, and I'll be talking about these games in 2 videos coming up after they occur again on the Tuesday in the next fortnight. So lots to talk about. This is really where you start to properly talk about the draft in a big way, seeing all these guys alongside each other, playing footy together and seeing who impresses. This is really where a player can make the jump from being a draftable option to a genuine pick 1 or top 10 contender. A lot to talk about in the coming weeks, guys, and I will have videos out talking about it. I will also be involved with Dylan Alexander on his channel as well. If you haven't seen those videos, we are catching up weekly, either virtually on Zoom or in person live, to talk about the draft and what we've noticed there, because there's been quite a few big performances on the weekend that I unfortunately wasn't able to talk about in this video because we're talking about something else. So if you want to hear about who's been impressing over in SA and WA, check out Dylan's latest video. I think it should be posted, actually it should be out tomorrow. But that is all for now, guys. Remember to stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe if you want to hear more draft updates and more draft coverage. There is a lot to talk about in the coming weeks and months. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and go footy.